All around the world, from the savannas of Africa to remote islands in the Pacific, there is a mass extinction brewing.
All right, start counting. Elephant 7.
Species are vanishing at roughly 100 times the normal rate. African elephants could be extinct in as few as 20 years, and coral reefs gone soon after that. The insects that pollinate our food are in trouble, as are these plastic-filled birds. In all, biologists feared the unthinkable. 3/4 of all known species could disappear in just a couple centuries. We've never seen anything like this. In all of Earth's history, there have only been 5 mass extinction events, one of which killed the dinosaurs. Now biologists say we are on the verge of the 6th. What are we doing to cause this, and is it too late to stop?
How do humans affect animals in general?
We pretty much can dictate like either their survival or if they thrive in life. So like if talking about like endangered species, if we are taking their habitats, and some of these animals can only live in specific habitats. So if, say, we're taking their areas away from them, like where are they going to survive? And we can dictate, can they live? Can they survive anymore? Or we can, for example, let's talk about like livestock. We can breed more and create more life, but I feel like we are like an integral part in like making sure a species of animal survives or their population decreases.
Increasing statistics on the severity of pollution, is it possible for these endangered species to be rescued?
Yes. It's hard because with pollution, let's just talk about water pollution right now. So I was in Florida in the Everglades a couple weeks ago, and I was like looking at the sand, and I like look at it, I thought it was just a bunch of shells, but it was just like all plastic. Actually, I'll show you a picture, but we don't realize that there's so much plastic in the water because of it breaks down in the sunlight, so it goes into really small pieces, and it really does affect the fish. And we learned that because they're so small, the fish think they're their food, and then they eat them. The birds then eat the fish, and then they get, do you see what I'm saying? So it's like a whole chain.
We know that over 300 species of wildlife have ingested this material. It's been reported in animals. And so as it is eaten by animals, it actually can move up the food web.
If you look at this picture, that's all plastic. So when you look at it from far away, you just think, oh, look, it just kind of just looks like this is at a natural beach, and you wouldn't realize what it is. And then if you literally just zoom in, it's like all plastic. So it's something that we don't see it because it's not something we're actively looking for, but because I know what to look for, I was like, actually on my boat tour, I was like, do you guys know that it's like all plastic? And it's just something we don't think about because we are not directly being affected by it. But if we don't do something now, especially in the water, we will be the theory is fishless by 2050. So that's not a lot of time. So, and if we don't do something now with pollution or, I just watched this thing on the news that said people were dumping in the storage drains of like all this waste. So I'm like, that goes directly into what we drink and our animals and our like wildlife system. So if we don't do something, that actually will affect us all.
You're doing like polar bears and penguins too. So does the like plastic, does that all factor into like the greenhouse effect and global warming for them too?
All pollution is affecting. Okay, so here, let's look at the big picture, okay? So pollution and global warming, some of the main things that affect that are like nitrous oxide, which is like exhaust from our cars, right? Or even, so if we're cutting down all these trees, right? What's gonna happen?
Less oxygen in the air.
Yeah, less oxygen in the air and less, exactly. So there's, the population's increasing so much. So that's gonna be more carbon dioxide, right? So if there's more carbon dioxide and then less filters that break down the carbon dioxide, then it's going to keep building and building and building in our ozone, right? And it makes, does anybody know what the ozone does, what the ozone layer does? It keeps our heat in. So if we keep building our pollution, it's going to make everything here warmer. And what's happening right now with the polar bears? Well, the ice is melting. So not only is it like decreasing, also think about the thinness of the ice. So we're actually just read an article about how polar bears, they're actually not able to, their land mass. Imagine being like, this is your whole, where you live, and imagine every year it gets smaller and smaller, and now you only have a certain amount of ice to be able to live on. And then you have to find a new place, or especially if they depend on that ice to be able to survive, they can only swim up to, they can be underwater for 3 minutes. So somebody said, what happens if like he falls in the ice and then he can't get out? You know, like there's so many things that you have to think about, especially with ice melting and etc.
So how does this topic affect you personally, since you have animals of your own?
It's very interesting. We have about like 80 or so animals at our farm, and our farm is very different than an average farm in the sense of you go out to the field and the cows come up to you. Our chickens are free range, so they're just like walking around and they're living their best lives. And we pride ourselves off of like the way we treat our animals. And like, for example, say we have a cow that's sick right now. It's like a family member being sick, you know, and so like you're very attached to them. And a lot of other farms, they do it just for profit, where we do it for a profit and because we love the animals. Does that make sense? So I feel like that's because the way you treat your animals, like I love them so much, and it's hard to see other people not treat them as great as, I don't know. Yeah.
Do you make changes to your everyday lifestyle that can improve the health of the environment and living organisms?
Yes. This is just one example. Like, I never ever ask for lids or anything like that. So there's this straw and it literally goes into my keychain. And that's just one little sip away. And guess what? Everyone's like, well, how do you clean the straw? Well, it comes with a filter. So it's like, even just doing something as simple as that, or even when you get food, never leave waste. Like, eat all your food, or don't only get as much as you will eat. We went completely paperless in my house, so there's no paper towels, there's no napkins. We have reusable stuff, so we actually they're like kind of tiny cloths, and then we just wash them. Food wise, we only get grass-fed beef now. Animals that are grass-fed and not forced like food upon them, like they're just like live a better life than like animals that you're like forcing feeding them to be able to eat them. But also telling everybody else like, hey, like my sister, why are you taking a 45-minute shower? I looked it up, it's like 2.2 gallons every minute that you're in the shower, so you don't realize how much that adds up. So just things like that, just realizing that do I need to have the water on while I'm brushing my teeth? Like, there's so many little things that you could do that we just don't even think about. Less buying. I used to buy a lot of things, and I learned that one of the ways to help the environment is by buying less and not needing as much. And so I only went to Target once this month. That's huge for me. That's huge. Like, I love Target, and do I need it? No. Do I have 200 dresses? Yes. You know what I mean? I don't need anything more, but just by buying less, that's a huge thing as well.
Is there any way we can reverse the effect we have on endangered species?
Oh, 100%. I think there's a lot of protection plans and laws that have been going into effect probably in the past like 30 years because it's such an issue. There's a lot of conservation. I feel like the first thing I want to tell anybody is when it comes to our ecosystems and all the things that are going on in our world, the first thing that you can do is spread awareness. So once people are aware, then it's easier to start doing something. And then, for example, like teaching environmental science, if you weren't in the class, you wouldn't be as aware. Like, I feel like it's like a pyramid scheme where I tell someone, then they tell more people. And I feel like awareness is like the #1 way to help. And then once you're aware, then you're like, okay, what's the next step? And then it's easier to help out.